News in the Jeffrey Epstein controversy. A federal judge has just rejected the Trump administration's request to make grand jury documents in the case public. The judge had this to say in his ruling, quote, "The information contained in the Epstein grand jury transcripts pales in comparison to the Epstein investigation information and materials in the hand of the Department of Justice." We have CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams with us now. Quite a response from the judge there, Elliot.
It is quite a response, and he even uses the language I thought you were going to quote, Brianna, is where he says that the Justice Department has a substantial investigative trove in their possession.
The Justice Department has now released a big new batch of documents in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation, and these include new details about Epstein's one-time friendship with President Trump. Look, there is a lot to go through. We said it's like more than 10,000 pages, so we are digging through this. But this is what is seen so far. In a 2020 email, an assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York wrote that Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet, quote, more times than previously has been reported.
Federal Judge Beryl Howell has ordered the release of explosive files connected to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. These documents include bank records from Deutsche Bank and flight logs that show a direct connection to Trump. When this news broke, Trump was giving a live speech from the Oval Office. He suddenly stopped talking and froze for 27 seconds. He just stood there in total silence on live television. This reaction speaks volumes. It looks like someone realizing their secrets are finally coming out. The documents show Trump took 7 trips on Epstein's private plane between 1993 and 1997. Trump has claimed for years that he was never on that plane and barely knew Epstein. These flight logs prove that was not true. There are also 202 emails showing the two men were far closer than Trump admitted. They discussed business deals, social events, and travel. These emails show they were business partners and close friends for a long time. The bank records are even more serious. They show $330 million in suspicious money transfers. Specifically, $48 million in consulting fees were sent from Russian sources into Trump's accounts. There is no clear explanation for why Trump would receive that much money for consulting in Russia at that time. It looks like a way to move money through illegal channels or other hidden networks. Deutsche Bank played a major role here. Their own systems flagged over 2,000 transactions in Trump's accounts as suspicious. Even with all those red flags, the bank still gave him over $2 billion in loans using property values that were wildly inflated to justify those loans. This looks like a massive effort to hide where the money was actually coming from and going. Judge Howell stated that these documents prove the president tried to block the investigation. That is called obstruction of justice. Trump used his power to try to keep the flight logs and bank records sealed. Because of this, the judge has sent the evidence to the committee handling impeachment, stating that these actions amount to high crimes. The White House claims these documents are fake or part of an old political attack. However, these are official government records. Some even carry the signature of Kash Patel, a former government official. If the documents were fake, it would mean people involved in the investigation fabricated evidence. But since they are official records unsealed by a judge, they are considered legitimate. All of this is happening at the worst possible time for Trump. He is already facing a massive $54 million payment deadline, and the IRS is investigating $500 million in hidden income. Everything is collapsing at once. His staff is panicking, and his political allies are starting to walk away. Republicans in Congress are deeply worried. It is extremely difficult to defend a president who took 7 flights on that specific plane. The connection to the Epstein network is seen as something voters will never forgive. Many senators who previously supported him may now reconsider they do not want to be tied to these scandals heading into the next election. Elliot Williams, a legal analyst, notes that the Justice Department now holds an enormous amount of evidence. This evidence ties together financial crimes, foreign money, and the Epstein network into one larger story. It shows the president was not just a friend of Epstein, but part of a group that used hidden connections to move money and avoid the law. The 27-second freeze on camera is being viewed as a moment of pure fear, someone realizing the truth is finally out. The House of Representatives is expected to move quickly toward an impeachment vote. They have the logs, the emails, and the bank records they need. This looks like the end of a long effort to keep these secrets hidden. This situation is a perfect example of how the past eventually catches up to the present. For years, the public only heard rumors about these connections. By unsealing these documents, the court has turned rumors into evidence. The most important part of this is not just the friendship, it is the money. When $48 million moves from foreign sources into a businessman's pocket without a clear reason, it creates a massive legal problem. It suggests the relationship was about more than social gatherings. It was about a network used to move wealth away from the eyes of the law. The freeze that happened on television is a huge deal for public perception. In politics, how you look is often as important as what you say. When a leader goes silent like that, it sends a message of weakness or guilt to the audience. It makes people feel like the leader has lost control of the situation. This moment will likely be remembered more than any specific number in the bank records, because it is visual proof of the pressure he is under. Looking back at history, there are clear similarities to the Watergate scandal involving Richard Nixon. In that case, it was not just the original event that caused the downfall. It was the attempt to hide the evidence. Judge Howell specifically pointed to obstruction. This is exactly what happened with Nixon. He used his power to stop investigators from uncovering the truth. History shows that when a leader uses the government to shield themselves from personal legal trouble, the system eventually pushes back and forces them out. We can also compare this to how other countries handle high-level corruption. In many places, large banks like Deutsche Bank have been caught helping powerful people hide money. Usually, the bank pays a fine and the person loses their job. But because this involves the President of the United States, the consequences are far greater. This is not just a business failure. It is a crisis for the entire government. What makes this different is the connection to the Epstein network. Most political scandals involve money or power. This scandal involves a network widely despised by the public because of its history of abuse and exploitation. That makes it toxic. In the past, politicians could survive a financial scandal by claiming it was just business. You cannot say that when the names involved are tied to something this dark. This is why this situation is far more dangerous for Trump than any of his previous legal battles. The short-term consequences are going to move fast and hit hard. We are likely to see an impeachment vote within just a few days. Because the evidence includes official flight logs and bank records, it is very hard for members of Congress to ignore. Even people who usually support the president will find it difficult to stand by him. They have to think about their own careers and how voters will react to the Epstein connection. In the long term, this could lead to the total collapse of the current political structure. If the president is removed or resigns, the vice president takes over. But the shadow of this scandal will hang over the entire party. It could trigger a wider cleanup where many people connected to these secret networks get investigated too. We should also expect massive legal action against the banks involved. Deutsche Bank could face fines so large they might struggle to stay in business. There will likely be a push for new laws to make sure banks cannot keep ignoring red flags just to profit from powerful clients. As for what happens next, logic suggests Trump may try to find a way out before he is officially removed. This often happens in history once the evidence becomes undeniable. He might cite health issues or claim he is stepping down for the good of the country. That allows him to keep some sense of dignity rather than being forced out through a vote. If he does not leave voluntarily, the trial in the Senate will become one of the biggest events in modern history. It would be the first time the public sees all of this evidence laid out in a formal setting. No matter how it ends, the presidency itself will be changed. The era where these kinds of hidden connections could stay buried is likely over because technology and the courts are making it far easier to follow the money. The final result will probably be years of court cases. Once he is no longer president, he loses the protections he currently has. Prosecutors will almost certainly use these same bank records to pursue criminal charges. This means the 27-second freeze we saw on TV was not just a pause in a speech. It was likely the beginning of the end for his public life.